The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we're talking about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
The other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
Say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Well, good morning, folks. Good morning. Welcome back to Idaho Signal. I am Matt Edwards, and today's Groundhog Day, right? 2026, February 2nd. So welcome. It certainly does feel like Groundhog Day because the left is on repeat over and over and over again with their antics. We're going to dive into something that's both eye-opening and alarming, how the left can organize, recruit, activate with incredible speed and precision, seemingly out of nowhere to you and me, right? Over the years, we've seen it. Massive anti-war rallies, the women's marches, anti-border wall protests. They've got it down to an art form. And now we've seen even more sophisticated efforts like these anti-ICE operations in Minnesota that citizen journalists like Cam Higbee and others on X have exposed. This kind of coordination, the tone and the spirit is already underway right here in Idaho. And we're going to get into those details coming up shortly, because what was just uncovered about a left-wing meeting that took place yesterday in Idaho, it shouldn't surprise you, but it should wake you up. Let's talk about what they're doing elsewhere first, because it is a masterclass in mobilization. In Minneapolis, you've got encrypted signal groups, some with hundreds of members, divided by city zones, dispatchers running 24/7 hotlines to track suspected ICE vehicles. People are assigned roles, mobile patrols scouting locations, license plate checkers running numbers through databases, observers staking out spots, and even, quote, commuters tailing agents while calling in for reinforcements. They use coded emojis for quick alerts. They run training sessions with slides and instructions. They clock in and out on shifts. Folks, it's incredible. They'll blast horns. They hand out whistles to swarm and blow the whistles when they need to swarm a spot like it was targeted. It's structured like a command center. There's daily chat refreshes. There's vetted mutual aid groups and ties to teachers and unions boasting of this rapid response network in the tens of thousands. And whether it's grassroots, sweat equity, or big money backing it, it does not matter. The effects are the same. And somehow the feds just kind of let it roll without any major crackdowns. Okay, whatever. Granted, there are smaller operations like that church raid that reportedly is tied to journalist hack Don Lemon. We'll watch them get prosecuted fast because they're easier targets. But these large-scale networks, they operate with impunity. They're gumming up federal enforcement and putting agents at risk. Now, flip the question. What is the right doing on this level? In all my years of grinding in the liberty movement, I've seen some brilliant guerrilla hits. James O'Keefe, strutting around in that pimp outfit and taking down Acorn with his hidden cameras. Or Nick Shirley dropping bombshells that could expose the biggest state fraud scandal in Minnesota history, maybe the country. So those are absolute wins. But have you ever been asked or ever been a part of a 1,000-person network of watchers and trackers and agitators running coordinated shifts to obstruct federal operations, risking it against all armed agents and such? Most of us haven't. And that's not a flex, okay? It's a wake-up call. We're still playing Tetris while they're running a full-on war room. The left is winning because they treat this like an actual war. Have you seen the footage of that girl? She's goes to pick up a flashbang and tries to throw it back at some agents or whatever. And it goes off in her hand and she's screaming, medic, medic, medic. It's like she's in a war film, medic, medic. I'm like, it's unbelievable. And they don't get tired. They don't whine about exhaustion. They don't back down. They execute with chilling precision. And we need to snap out of our complacency and face that reality, folks. And I'm not calling for illegal stunts on our side. We're better than that. But what we don't need to do is to stoop to their level. What we better realize, though, and better be aware of, is that we need to organize legally, smartly. We need to push back hard on our terms. Our terms. And we need to do it through relentless activism, public exposure, accountability, smart legislation, voting, and sheer unbreakable persistence in showing up when they show up. And that's the part that should sting. Folks, you're out there, you're part of the act, you're active. If you're watching the show regularly, you're active. But there are people in your life who need to be shamed, quite frankly, because they aren't paying attention. They act like none of this touches their cozy little bubbles. Even if especially those that are sitting next to you in your church every Sunday. They've decided that the world can burn while they stay safely on the sidelines with no dog in the fight. Newsflash, the rest of society cannot function without you stepping up. You need to get engaged, right? Otherwise, we're going to watch the left steamroll over everything we value, and then you can just sit around pretending that it's someone else's problem. And that's unacceptable in my view. So what's going on here in Idaho? Well, last night, there was a meeting, and this isn't the first time we've seen this, but this was maybe the first big meeting they've had of this legislative session. And this morning on Gem State Chronicle, Brian Allman released an article kind of outlaying what was witnessed during that time, during this meeting last night. And so we want to show you some of that footage. We want to show you some of the materials and things that were put out last night, because they are planning on going into the House Local Government Committee today, where they are going to oppose a bill that is going to have major ramifications in cities across Idaho. And so let's bring in Brian Allman now. We can kind of go over that bill first to talk about what's going on here. Brian, good to see you this morning. We're talking about House Bill 557. Let's give the folks a little bit of a background on this bill before we jump into what the left has been organizing.
Sure. Good morning, Matt. So there's in Idaho state law, there's certain laws regarding discrimination. An employer, for example, cannot discriminate against someone based on sex or race, ethnicity, things like that. There's been this campaign by left-wing activists to add the words sexual orientation and gender identity to that statute, to say that you can't discriminate, in any way against somebody based on, their sexual orientation or, how they portray themselves with regards to sex and gender. They haven't gotten any headway because the Republican legislature says, no, that's ridiculous. So instead, they've gone to cities, and there's a number of cities, I forget the number off the time, I think it's 12 cities, has enacted various forms of this ordinance. Meridian has one that they just put in a couple of years ago. Idaho Falls has one where they put in just a little bit at one time and then more and more and more. Coeur d'Alene has one, Boise has one. And so for example, up in Coeur d'Alene, and I'm sure we'll get into more detail on this, there was a place called the Hitching Post, a place where you could go and host a wedding, a nice little venue. They were facing fines from the city of Coeur d'Alene because they did not want to open up and do weddings for gay people. They did not believe in that. They did not believe that was right. And so they were facing all these fines, and I believe they eventually just shut their doors, if I recall correctly. So this things happen. Up in Sandpoint, they had an ordinance like this, and there was some outrage last year when it turned out that a man was using the women's locker room at a YMCA there and claiming protection under this ordinance, and the city of Sandpoint actually repealed the ordinance in response to public backlash over that. So this is where the battleground is, and there's these organizations both within Idaho and outside of Idaho who are really pushing this at the city level because they haven't been able to get it through at the state level.
Right, and your article, we can throw that up on the screen so people can see it. The article starts with the great title, "Bake the Cake, Bigot," because that's basically what we're discussing here is when folks walk into a bakery and say, "We want you to make us, a big gay cake for our same-sex wedding," and the baker says, "No, I don't want to do that. It's against my beliefs. So you can take your business elsewhere." And then they sue them and they go to court. So what you're saying is that this. Currently, right now, there are cities that have these ordinances in here where it basically does force a baker or it does force businesses to not discriminate or not. What is that the right term to say? Not discriminate against? I mean, that's.
Well, it depends on your perspective, of course. The big one that a lot of people have heard of was Jack Phillips in the outskirts of Denver, Colorado, had a cake shop and he made custom cakes. And even before Obergefell had been passed, this homosexual couple came to him and said, "We want you to bake our cake. We're going to go get married in Massachusetts where it's legal." And he declined. And this is where the distinction, I think, falls, because you go back to the 1960s civil rights era. You had, black people were not being allowed to eat at certain diners or patronize certain businesses in the South due to Jim Crow laws. And so you had the Civil Rights Act, which was meant to rectify that. Well, now they've taken it, I would say, into a different realm now, because this isn't about, anybody could walk into a cake shop or a business like that and just buy a cake. It's the specific act of asking them to do something, to write something, to say something, to host a wedding rather than just, buying supplies for a wedding, to write on the cake a message that he, as a Christian, he does not believe that he should be writing. And that's his right of conscience. But the fact that he believed that seemed to be an affront. And so you had these activists sued. The Colorado Commission on Civil Rights, or whatever they call it over there, like our Idaho Human Rights Commission, came in and was taking him to court and was punishing him. Eventually, he went up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled in his favor, 7-2. 7-2, not even 6-3. It was 7-2. And but the very day that decision was announced, another activist went in there wanting him to make a transgender celebration sex change cake. And of course, he refused. And so he filed a complaint, and that started the process all over again. The process is the punishment in this case.
Always. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think we want to see that kind of level of activism in the form of, aggressively going after anybody who disagrees with you here in Idaho.
Let's make this clear, Brian. This is all about control. This is all about forcing you to say that 2 and 2 is 5. I mean, this is the classic move that Marxists, even if they don't know that they're acting like a Marxist, this is them. I mean, this is what they want to do, and they want to tear down Western civilization. Is they want to break down the family, they want to break down tradition, they want to break down the rules, they want to break down truth by forcing you to say that 2 + 2 = 5. Now, if I sell math books, you can buy math books from me. You can take math books from me. I'll take your money and I'll give you a math book, and you can walk around all day saying 2 and 2 is 5. But if you come into my math shop and you tell me that I need to claim that 2 and 2 is 5, now you're saying, you're violating my conscience, and I'm not going to do that. So this ordinance would stop a business from allowing their restrooms, if they have dual restrooms, one for men, one for women, and a man dressed as a woman says, "May I use your restroom?" And you say, "Yes, sir. Your restroom is on the left," and they proceed to go to the right into the women's room. If this ordinance is in place, I would be violating their rights by demanding that they go into the men's room.
Potentially. I haven't heard of that specific issue coming up, but that sounds like the sort of thing that could run afoul of these ordinances. And and as you said, it really is about getting people to say 2 + 2 is 5. It's not enough that people want to live their lives how they please. They want to control other people. They want to enforce their view of the world. In this case, that men and women are interchangeable, that you can change yourself with drugs and surgery, onto the everybody else. And if you don't believe that, then it's like you put a target on your back and they're going to come after you. This whole the cake shop in Colorado, some of the people who were behind that were apparently just looking for excuses to sue somebody. It's not about, okay, I just really want a cake for my wedding. It's all right, let's find somebody we know is going to deny this so that we can file a lawsuit and make a big issue of this so that we can crush the opposition.
That's exactly it. They seek these things out. They seek these fights out in order to get their way, to get their will. All right. Well, let's find out who the they are, because last night there was a meeting, an online meeting between folks from different organizations. You got the ACLU. You've got this one called Legal Voice.
Out of Seattle.
Yeah. You got the Idaho Queer Caucus. Am I allowed to say queer? I don't even know, but I guess it's in the title, so I can say it. The Idaho Queer Caucus, Planned Parenthood, and a bunch of other folks who if you wanted to join this meeting, you could just join this meeting. Amy Dundon is the ACLU representative in Idaho. And here is how, so we've already said at the top, there's a bill today that's going to be heard in the House committee today that's going to make it so cities can't do this anymore. And we can get into that a little bit afterwards too, about the, what states can tell cities what to do and all that sort of jazz. But this is the bill that they are organizing to show up and give testimony and pressure to get this committee to vote it down and to not let it advance. So they get together in their little Zoom meetings. And it appears that Amy Dundon is the organizer of this meeting, and she had all sorts of information about who's on the committee, who are her allies, which Republicans they think they can sway, and which Republicans are so evil that they're going to have that the folks may need to have some safe spaces available for them because of the words that they may use. So we're going to watch about 4 to 5 minutes of this because I think it's fascinating, and it really, folks, you need to see the level of coordination, the level of detail, the level of strategery, right? that goes into their work and what they do to organize and what they do to make a dent in this. So let's watch this. Let's watch about 4 to 5 minutes of this video here.
Audience, legislators, these are the people that are in the room. In our case for 557 tomorrow, we have what we think of as a pretty hostile lineup of lawmakers that sit on this committee. who will decide whether or not this bill advances through the committee and then will be placed on the House floor, right? It gets placed for the full House to decide, and then it will move over to the Senate, et cetera. So back to who's in the room. We do have 2 Democrats on the committee. We think of these folks as friendly lawmakers. We've worked with both Church and Birch to some extent on this particular bill, and we know that they'll be prepared in advance, and we know that they may choose to focus on technical arguments around the bill, some flaws that they might see in the bill and how it functions. We also have a small handful of moderate Republicans, and moderate here is a term that we're using really generously. They're not moderate on every issue, but these are folks that all 4 of them did in fact vote against the 2025 memorial that was advocating to repeal marriage equality. And so that gives us a sense, and that vote, these no votes, that was the full House floor, right? So when we see that, we know that these folks they spent some of their political capital to say no to that bill. And so I want to urge caution, but we do have a little bit of optimism about these folks. Importantly, Cheatham and Weber, I know for sure, have worked or do work in local governments. Cheatham, in particular, that his experience with local government is in Pocatello, where there is an NDO currently, and importantly, where the residents of Pocatello, when asked if they should repeal this non-discrimination ordinance, said no, we want to keep that ordinance. So Representative Cheatham here represents a group of people that have expressed through a democratic process that they like this ordinance and they want to keep it. There are several hostile Republicans on this committee, and they represent like very powerful pieces of the committee, right? So Barbara Ehart, who has run everything from the ban on trans girls participating in sports to, I think, the restrooms, just all kinds of anti-trans legislation, is the chair of the committee. And so she has a tremendous amount of sway here. Bruce Skog is the sponsor of the bill, so this is important to him. And then we have Dale Hawkins, who has been open in his animus towards everyone from immigrants to liberals to gay folks. Price, Kaler, Razor, there's a typo there, Hostetler and Marmon. At least Kaler, Rasser, Hostetler, and Marmon were elected recently in 2024. And they unseated moderate Republicans in a way that makes me really suspicious about where their campaign financing was coming from. And I think it may have come from sort of all the same place, and they all are really aligned with the values of the Idaho Family Policy Center, who we've mentioned before. This is House Local Government, which is a weird committee. We haven't really engaged, weird in the sense that it's new to us.
Let's pause this. Let's pause this real quick. And I want to get back to it, so don't let me forget. But Brian, this is very interesting how she kind of runs down each of the committee members, because she started to get granular a little bit, like these are the hostile ones, these are the moderates, these are our favorites, or the friendly ones, the Democrats. And it really kind of makes sense here. Like, I mean, I get it. Maybe, they're going to talk about the bill and why they don't like it and all this stuff too. But to really understand the committee and trying to almost I don't want to say poison the well, but just really making it about the people, right? It's almost like, forget just focusing on the bill and trying to come up with good arguments. You're wasting all this time talking about how Dale Hawkins hates trans people or something. It's just it's so bad.
It's bad, but also there's a certain strategy there. Lobbyists inside the Capitol, they have their whip counts. They know they know the personalities of the people they're trying to convince. They know, okay, these guys we'll never convince, so not, don't even bother wasting the time talking to them. These guys over here, they're on our side. We'll go, make sure they're on board and they're good. It's these in the middle. We've got to focus on these, and we've got to figure out what makes them tick. What is going to allow us to convince them to support our bill or oppose a bill that they're fighting against. And so I see, you don't usually see that necessarily at the activist level, but there's a certain method to that madness in that if the testifiers can play off of the personalities of the committee members that are swayable or that they believe are swayable, then they can hope to get the outcome they want.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I'm just kind of curious to know, like, at what point do you sort of just at what point do you kind of just acknowledge or make the fact? I mean, she did say, these moderates, we don't agree with them on everything, but we do have a feeling we would agree with them on the most left wing ideas. That's the most bizarre take for me here on this one is like, well, then what don't you agree on with those quote 4 moderates that you think you'd agree on with some of the most, like, basically saying, no, we want to force people to lie. We want to force people to use the pronouns and to call them what they want, blah, blah, all this. Anyway, all right, I kind of digress here. Let's go back into this and finish up. It's just another minute or so.
Weird in the sense that it's new to us. We know that, Ehart is chairing this. We're not sure how she acts as a chair. We don't have a whole lot of experience there. We have seen her in committees, and we know how she behaves. She often follows the lead of another committee member. And so it will be interesting to see how this plays out. Many of the folks listed in this sort of hostile group tend to ask questions that are bad faith questions, right? So they ask gotcha questions or questions that are really designed to make the person who's giving testimony feel uncertain about the points that they made or uncomfortable about themselves. I can speak from experience. Or in other ways, just sort of, attempt to prove their point in a way that is, disparaging in some sense to the person who's testifying. They also often use terminology and language that is, if not vitriolic, at least very upsetting to folks. And so we mentioned that here too, because not all of us are up for hearing that stuff. And so I think it's really important to check in with yourself. It's a really, really hard time, broadly speaking, right now. And because this committee is so hostile, we want to make sure that folks are doing a gut check and knowing, am I up for this or am I not? The other big bucket of
Okay. Brian, it's hard to listen to the truth. It's so we've watched these committees with this type of legislation before, this like heated LGBT type of legislation, and all the people that she talks about, all they do is ask truthful questions, and they can't handle that.
I really miss Julianne Young. She was terrific at that. She would very calmly and rationally ask questions that just obliterated the entire worldview that these testifiers were trying to present. But I know some of the members of this committee will, I think, do a pretty good job today of getting to the heart of the matter. And that is, men cannot become women. Boys are boys, girls are girls. There's no in between. And our policies should not support the lie that they can.
Yeah, I'm just flabbergasted by the level of where we are. We're so distant. It's really sad. We've drifted so far apart, the left and the right, and I wouldn't even say the left and the right. I look at this as like we're not talking about being compassionate. We're talking about when they say we just want to be compassionate. No, what you're doing is you are enabling. You're enabling a huge mental health crisis in our country. Especially when it comes to this trans thing with these kids, it all starts there. And when you continue to allow this type of, to get into the legal framework of how cities operate, and telling businesses how they can operate when it comes to things that are truthful. I'm not talking about regulations on health or things like that or safety. We're talking about just like enabling society to drift further and further away from the truth. And that is so dangerous. It is so dangerous. Okay, what else did we find in this meeting? Because this is the thing that I just kind of want to, I really want to focus on. She was talking, this Zoom meeting probably had about 40 to 50 people in it at any given time. And it was, like I said, all these different members, ACLU, Planned Parenthood, this outfit called Legal Voice. Is that what it was called out there? Yeah. But here's a little bit of a montage of what they were. We can just throw it up on the side there of all the different folks introducing themselves on this Zoom call. And I would assume most of them are here in Idaho getting ready to testify. And that is today at 1:30 Mountain Time is when you're going to see a lot of these folks show up in Zoom or show up in person. Nixon Matthews, who's been a regular testifier. And so a lot of these folks, William Mitchell is part of that Legal Voice folks. So this is them. This is their organization. This is how they organize, and this is how they come and attack these bills. Do you have a comment on how quickly they're able to mobilize on this, Brian?
Yeah, obviously they did the meeting last night in order to set people up to testify today, and this really is a case of making a few dozen people seem like they represent millions here in Idaho, because they're going to go into this committee either in person or remotely, and that's Capitol's here in Boise, so it's almost enemy territory. And they're going to go in there, and there's going to be 20, 30, 40 people testifying, and they're going to be repeating the same talking points because they were shared in this meeting. And it's going to seem to the committee members, or at least to the people watching, that, oh, this must be how the people of Idaho feel. Now, I saw this in action this morning. I was at the Capitol. I was in the Revenue and Taxation Committee where the conformity bill was being debated. And you wouldn't think that would be a super controversial bill. It just says we're going to conform Idaho state tax code to the federal tax code. We've talked about it on the show a few times. However, the room was full. There were 27 people signed up to testify, and about 23 of them were in opposition. And the chairman said that they had received about 200 emails in opposition as well. Where did all this come from, and why were they testifying? Well, they all had similar talking points. They'd been given some of the details of the bill, but their main talking point was that this is going to cut revenues, which is going to require cuts to services, welfare, support for the disabled, all these welfare programs that people apparently rely on. And therefore, you need to vote against this bill because we need to keep those revenues flowing. We need your tax dollars to flow so that we can fund these programs. That was their main talking point. So I have to imagine there was another Zoom meeting, perhaps in the past few days, where they distributed these same ideas. And it makes me wonder, is that something that we're not doing well enough on the right? This was an alliance of ACLU and Planned Parenthood and this Legal Voice and Queer Caucus, whatever that is. And they're getting together, getting activists involved who will then go testify. And when these activists testify, watch this afternoon, they're going to just come up and say, I am a mother, a father, I am a taxpayer, I'm a grandpa, I'm a grandma, I'm a citizen of Boise, I'm a resident of Idaho, I'm a lifelong Idahoan, and this is why this is such an awful bill. They're not going to say, hey, we got together last night and we all settled on these talking points. They're just going to pretend like it's coming from the heart, like it's just from their own personal experience. That's a little handy guide to crafting your message. I'm interested in watching to see how many testimonies really follow this exact model. It's not a bad model, really, but it's no. I mean, none of this. See it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, none of this stuff is to disparage any of the tactics that they're doing. We want to show this because we want people to repeat it. This is what you should be doing. If you have an issue or you have a broad scope of issues, like this is how you should be organized. I mean, I'm commending their organization. I'm not calling them out for doing it. I'm commending them. Throw up that hand thing again. What is that hand thing? I mean, we're doing a lesson here right now. The hand thing is a handy guide to crafting your message. You got 5 fingers, different points. What is this real quick? Drop the lower third so we can see the whole thing. There you go.
Yeah, first finger, you introduce yourself, and that's just normal committee testimony. My name is Brian Allman. I live in Eagle, and I'm here testifying on behalf of myself today. And you can throw in a few other things. I'm a father. I'm a taxpayer. And then, what is my issue? Why am I concerned about this? Why do I care about this? And then the third one is the most important one, the personal story. Well, I heard a lot of that this morning. Well, I have a disabled child who relies on state funds for his treatments, and if this bill passes, they're going to have to cut that, and he might die. They try to go to the emotions, even if it's about a tax bill or a funding bill, and so they're definitely going to be going for the emotions in this bill this afternoon. And what's the fourth and fifth there?
Incredible.
Why the legislator should care, and then and then you finish it off with a strong hook.
Right. So okay, yeah. So great, excellent, and all this stuff is in the article that you posted. And again, folks, this is the level of coordination that at the top of the program, we talked about how organized they are in Minnesota, because ICE is there, and everybody's seeing everything that's going on. This is how it starts. This is how it starts. I mean, this is the level of training and organization that goes on at this level, where you are putting it all together for just for a piece of legislation. Imagine if we started having the ICE activities here in Boise. How quickly they could activate something like that. That was a Signal chat that Cam Higbee found of all of the people involved in that Minneapolis area. And I mean, they have tons of maps, emojis and roles. You clock in, you clock out. It's absolutely incredible the level that they're in. Now, obviously, that got infiltrated, and we were able to see their work. They have to make some of this stuff available so that it can be shared around, and that's how we got folks inside to grab some of the material that we see there. And so, yeah, folks, look, they're serious. Are you? I mean, that's the big question.
This is where you get things like the No Kings protests or the No ICE protests or the abortion protests. The protests are not going to move the needle with the legislators. They see it every day. They're not going to look out the window and say, "Oh, well, a bunch of people are protesting against this bill. I'd better not pass it." But what it does is it provides a networking opportunity for all these leftist groups to coordinate. So you come to this protest, and they come over you, sign you up for a mailing list or an app, or get your name and phone number. And then when it's time for a strategy session to testify on something, well, there you go. When it's time to go out and vote, even if it's a low turnout election, there you go. They just let you know. It's they're very on call for this, and it is something I think we need to do better on the right.
Yeah, I mean, we try to do as much as we can over here. Running petitions on trying to gather people to send signatures on petitions, write emails, send in your letters, send in your phone calls, and voice your opinion. So, like I said, I'm not opposed to any of this. I just want you guys to see that you have to remain vigilant. You have to remain vigilant. Okay, we're long overdue for a quick break. Let's do this. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. We also have Lily Allman on the other side. We want to bring her in. We'll have both Allmans with us, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into the things that are going on around the state when it comes to this specific issue, because we want you guys to show up and testify as well. We'll be right back.
That's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape, because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among a world silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
All right. Forever Idaho. We love that tune. We love every version. We love every version that we hear of that tune. Speaking of course, in the tune, they say from Boise to Coeur d'Alene. So speaking of Coeur d'Alene, let's bring in Lily Allman here along with Brian. Hey, Lily, good to see you this morning. We've been watching this issue go on, and you had pointed out to us something that happened in Coeur d'Alene regarding this type of ordinance that was sparked by something that happened earlier, right?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me back. So this was making me think of the whole SOGI thing that is being brought up because of this new pending legislation. It made me wonder whether Coeur d'Alene's hate crime ordinance had anything to do with that. And so I just did a quick search, and there's definitely the SOGI language all over it. So this came up right after we had a visiting basketball team in Coeur d'Alene, and there was a claim that there was some racist remarks made to one of the players who was walking around town. And so it became a whole thing, made national news, of course, because everyone likes to paint Coeur d'Alene as racist. And I think they were finally able, to track down like the kid who yelled one profanity or something. So it's not like the whole town was after this visiting basketball team. We're a tourist town, and we're welcoming of everybody. But it turned into a whole thing, and then they went and did this ordinance afterwards. And I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but just haven't brought it up yet. So this exists in Coeur d'Alene currently.
Yeah, and what's fascinating, Lily, is like as you mentioned, when news first broke about that, there was something like there were four big trucks with Confederate flags and loud exhausts and chanting MAGA slogans, and they were just running up and down the street taunting this women's basketball team, and then it turned out to be with some young high schooler in a random car that like drove by late at night. Really ridiculous. But here's the thing, and I'm so glad that you saw this, is that they then enacted this hate crime ordinance, but they snuck in those things that had nothing to do with the basketball players, the gender identity and sexual orientation. So it was the perfect moment where they say never let a crisis go to waste, and they snuck the whole ordinance in there. And now that's what we're dealing with. So, Brian, does that not strike you as odd?
Well, it doesn't strike me as odd, only because I've been watching the left for a long time, my entire life, and that's just how they operate. They you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Everybody, I remember down here in Boise at the Capitol after that incident, before anybody really knew the details of it, when it was just a lot of rumors and innuendo, you had the Senate did this big resolution against racism because everybody wanted to get on board and get on the record saying, well, we hate racism. That's very bad. We don't approve that. And ordinances, I think, come from the same place.
We're losing the feed on Brian there. Let's We lost Brian there for a second. We'll get back to him in a minute. Let him rebuffer there. Lily, you were here during that time with the basketball situation and everything, and like you said, it made national news. But what was the focus on the ground there? I mean, from what you remember, you're a lot younger than most of us out here. I don't want to keep pointing that out, but it's a different mindset. Like, what do you see when you hear those types of stories? Did it immediately go, oh yeah, that's totally what's going to happen here? Or did you immediately think that was not true?
Yeah,
the
when the
women's basketball thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. When the accusation was first leveled, I was like, there's no way it happened like they said it did. There's just no way. Or if it did, it was some kid just causing trouble. And so it really blew way out of proportion. Like, the cops were going around looking for video footage from every single business on the street. They were just trying to find any evidence that this actually happened. And it took them a long time to find anything. So yeah, it was obviously, even when you look at the video of the guy who reported the situation, I think he was wearing like a rainbow fur coat. And you're like,
yeah.
Do you remember that?
Right. I remember that. Yeah, that was pretty wild.
Yeah. And so it just kind of seemed like they were trying to cause something.
Yeah.
That was kind of my impression.
Yeah. All right. So now when you look at this bill that's going to be before the committee today, are you like, what do you think? What do you think about the left organizing against the bill, and what do you see on the right in terms of people organizing or rallying to support the bill? Do you see both sides engaged as passionately?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So the left went and organized very quickly, and I had heard about this hearing on Friday. So I knew over the weekend that this was going to be coming up, and I was kind of wanting to give a call to action, but put it off. I was busy with other stuff. But then yesterday I hear that they're doing this Zoom call, and they've got like 40 people on there, and they're going to flood the Capitol tomorrow. And I was like, okay, this is what conservatives have been waiting for, because there are so many people watching this show right now who are just waiting for an opportunity to get involved. And they can't sit and read the government websites all day and figure out when these hearings are going to come up. They need to be told. So I went and let people know. I posted to my Instagram stories, and I got a ton of messages from people who were either going to try to get there, they're disappointed that they can't make it in time, or they went and took advantage of the Idaho Family Policy Center email link that they have on an article on their website. So they went and contacted their legislators that way. So yes, conservatives are moving now, but I think we can work on getting a little bit more prepared in the future, because we want to do something. This is a very important issue to conservatives. We don't want the LGBTQ agenda taking over the state, because we've seen what kind of damage that it does, especially to children.
Yeah, great. Well, that's great to hear. You're making my heart warm there by saying how quickly you were able to mobilize folks and get people engaged.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. I'm not as in touch on my DMs as I should be, but sometimes they can really get away from me. But that's great to hear. So folks, it's 1:30 Mountain Time. The House, there it is, House Local Government 1:30, and you can go down there in person and testify. You can show up and do your thing live, or do they do remote testimony in that? They might. There's a whole link.
Yeah.
You can just register there to testify, and you can also provide written. What is it? An email? A message.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Let's bring Brian back in here if he's back. Yeah, Brian. I wanted you to be able to finish your thought there, and your quick thought. You were going to say something about connecting the two. Yeah. The 2 points here.
I guess the internet just can't handle more than one almond at a time. I think it's a short hop from saying we need these non-discrimination ordinances to then saying we need hate crime laws, and then speech codes, and finally to thought crimes. It's not enough to say, well, you can't refuse to bake a cake for a homosexual couple or a transgender person who wants their message on there. From there to say, well, you're not allowed to say that a man cannot become a woman, because that's offensive. I mean, we heard the ACLU lady say that it's hard to listen to that. The truth hurts. And in this country, we still have a First Amendment with freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience. And that's, I think, what they're chipping away at here with these ordinances. And that's why I think it's important that this bill go forward.
Yeah,
Draw the
great.
line here.
Yeah. Lily, are you signed up to testify? Was that on your agenda today?
If it's not too late and if I can wrangle a little testimony, I might do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have plenty of In the Know Idaho videos planned on on it either way. That's what's so great. I mean, there's so many different ways to tackle these issues, and not everybody can show up. I get it. I know we're out here admonishing folks for not showing up all the time. But writing a letter is one of the best things that you can do. It really does get to the committee. Use your own words. Just back it up. If you need to use a form letter, use a form letter. Just getting the amount of volume that can get in there, making a phone call. It's just about volume and applying pressure on there. And it's a great point. I don't know which one of you said it, but it's the same. They see these committees. They see the same people over and over and over again. And some of the freshmen may not see the regular folks in there all the time and may get persuaded, by seeing somebody. But when you see the same, Unitarian, priest, with the pride flag garb on, talking about Christianity or something, it just, it makes for good TV at the very least. But any way you can, if you're doing anything culturally, if you're donating money, whatever you can, you're writing journalism, whatever it is, just stay vigilant out there, folks. Stay vigilant. All right. Lily, what's next for you? Are you working on any new material?
Yeah, so I just posted that little funny protest that I did in Coeur d'Alene, and everyone's commenting on the gas prices in the background. People are commenting from Oregon, California, Washington. They're like, it's only $2.50 in Idaho. And we're like, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So nice. I'm going to post a video about that later, probably today. So keep an eye out and kind of, explain what's going on there.
All right, that's great. We'll look forward to it. All right, that's Lily Allman at In the Know Idaho. Be sure you're following her on all those social media channels. Good to see you, Lily.
Good to see you.
All right, and Brian, what's next for you, my friend?
Well, this morning I published that article that we talked about. I wanted to get that out quickly so that people had a chance to email the committee or call their legislators about this important issue. Also working on a bunch of other stuff, still looking at the population of the Boise School District, looking at some immigration bills that are coming up that are important. It's coming fast and furious right now, so I'm having to pick the most interesting ones and throw it out there and try and find things that people can actually make an impact on.
Yeah, excellent, fantastic. All right, it's at Brian Allman over there on X. Be sure you follow him. Brian, we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right, folks. Here's another. We're going to pivot slightly here, but keep you on your toes. The 5th, I believe, February 5th. We hear is we'll pencil it in, is the date that we're going to hear no, it wasn't that, but we'll get to that. The 5th is when we're going to hear the Blaine Amendment, the repeal to the bill to repeal the Blaine Amendment, to put that on the ballot is going to be happening in House State Affairs on the 5th. And so that means we're giving you time. We're signaling it right now. If that's an issue that you're passionate about and you have a statement that you want to deliver, that is going to happen in the House State Affairs Committee this week on the 5th. And so you need to mobilize and get together. We'll send a word out as well to remind you that that's coming up. We don't have the official agenda yet, but so it's not official until we see the agenda. But just be prepared for that, because it will be have a hearing, a full House hearing in House State Affairs on Friday. On Thursday, the 5th. Okay, let's throw up this flyer over here. This is something very important for parents, and I want you guys to understand here. Internet safety is a must for. It's a must. And for our youth. And there's an education program that's happening in the Lincoln Room that's at the Capitol. And it's on February 4 at 12 o'clock. And this is an important event for you to attend. Sorry, I'm fumbling over my words today. Canyon County Anti-Trafficking Task Force will be there. The Idaho Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. and then the Idaho Attorney General himself, Raul Labrador. And this is all about equipping your children for online safety. It's about giving you the tools that you need and the resources and the places to go to make sure that you are able to keep your children safe, not just safe from things that they may come across on the internet, whether it's extreme graphic content or anything like that, but also the predators that are out there. I mean, we have this situation with some of these video games, like that video game Roblox, I think it's called, where there are literally people in there who are grooming children. And it can happen in anything. Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it is, it can happen through the internet, through any of these devices. And your children need to be aware that, I mean, when I was a kid, they used to say, don't talk to strangers, right? And now we're giving kids a phone and say, talk to all the strangers that you want online. And that's even worse. So please, I encourage you to attend this if you can in person. I have no idea if they'll be recording it, but if they do, we'll be sure to let you know of some of the good things that come out of it. So please be there. There's going to be a lot of legislators in the room as well. I know that. And so I do highly encourage you to do that. One of the things that I looked at this morning, and this is not a plug, but was this device called Pinwheel. Have you guys heard of this? It's a Pinwheel. It's a watch and a phone. It's like giving you don't want to give your kids a phone, but I was researching it myself just personally because my kids are getting older and they see all their friends with phones and watches and all this and not that I want to give my kid a phone or anything, but I'm looking into some of these devices that might even actually be a help and also provide them with the safety and security that they may need. Okay, all right, we'll give them a free plug here, the Pinwheel. And again, I haven't looked into this, folks, too further yet, so I have no idea. But I have heard good things about it. So I'm going to dive into this too. Now look at that, the watch, $159. It looks like an Apple Watch. Very nice. So anyway, that's something that we're looking into. All right, folks, let's do this. If you want to bring up the committees, we can look and see what's happening later in the committees today. I have my list here. I just, again, we talk about this and we want to equip you. We can't do it all. And maybe we try too much sometimes, but so that's all we can do. But later today in House Local Government, the anti-discrimination ordinances will be discussed there. This was JFAC that's this morning. They had the Idaho Tax Commission in there. House Education met this morning with the House Welfare met this morning as well. We did have some video. Representative Rob Beiswinger presented an update to the Idaho Medical Freedom Act that was passed last year. Unfortunately, the video, we only had audio, so we could still play it and listen to it, but we'll have to go through it and clean it up a little bit, perhaps. But Idaho Public Television didn't follow through with their video side of it. They just presented the audio for the first half of it. Down in House Revenue and Tax, you heard Allman talk about how the ton of people showed up for the testimony on H559, the Internal Revenue Code conformity bill. And then, of course, this morning in House State Affairs, Representative Scott was there, and she was trying to get rid of. Actually, no, she was trying to hold people accountable once again. That's Representative Scott. And then Alfieri was trying to get rid of the ability to buy bulk lottery ticket purchases. In House Ag later today, it looks like we've got a bunch of different things there dealing with rules and so forth. So I don't see anything too explosive later on, but you never know. Sometimes you read some of these things and you're like, oh, it's kind of benign. And then all of a sudden it's like national news. We also are awaiting the opinion of the Idaho Supreme Court. They have the school choice tax credit in there, and so we're awaiting their We're waiting their opinion on how they're going to come down on whether or not the school choice tax credit is constitutional, or whether or not the petitioners even had standing. I mean, that was kind of like the most glaring thing I heard from that hearing, the Supreme Court hearing, was that some of these people just didn't have standing, because, you know, just because you're a legislator and you vote down a bill doesn't mean all of a sudden you can sue to get rid of it. Like, what was the harm? what harm did you suffer from? Okay. Once again, call us, leave us your message. 402-4915 at the 208, all across the state, the great 208. 402-4915. Leave your message. We'll play it on the air. And 30 seconds, 60 seconds long. Yeah, Jenny Holmes says she thought 5-5. Man, that went by so fast. You guys, if you don't catch the comments when they come up like that, they're going to be gone. They're going to be really gone. We thought 557 was going to be benign, and now here we are. Thanks for the info. You got it, Jenny. And she's got a great group out there. See, she's someone who's organized. When my admonishment earlier today was to everybody except Jenny Holmes, because she's got it together. Big shout out to her. Jenny, send me a message. If you want to come on and talk about your work you're doing, I would love to have you on there. All right, that's a public invitation to Jenny to see if she wants to come on, or at the very least, send me something to read and show online where people can go and follow your stuff. All right, folks, we'll see you back tomorrow. We'll be sure to have lots of footage from today's hearing and to see how I think it's going to pass. I think it'll get through, but it won't be without some fireworks. So we'll have those fireworks for you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day today. God bless.
And family, let freedom ring. So raise that flag, let freedom fly. Echo liberty from plains to mountains high. America's heart beats red, white, and blue. 250 years of me and you, yeah, lift it up loud. Idaho proud, American true, Idaho proud. Red, white, blue. Red, white, blue.
Bill, I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.